The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to the Lord.
Once when Jesus was praying in solitude, and the disciples were with him, he asked them, "Who do the crowds say that I am?" They said in reply, "John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others, one of the ancient prophets has arisen." But then he said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter said in reply, "The Christ of God." He rebuked them and directed them not to tell this to anyone. Then he said, "The Son of Man must suffer greatly and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised." Then he said to all, "If anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it." My brothers and sisters, the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. I'm not sure this passage was the inspiration behind Thomas More's decision to stand against King Henry VIII of England and ultimately lose his head, but it certainly resonates with the fact. Yesterday, June the 22nd, was the feast of the patron of our parish, St. Thomas More. More was a learned man. He was a lawyer by training in both civil and canon law, but he was also an author and a theologian. It is believed that the title, the Defender of the Faith, a title that the Queen of England still bears, a claim that was given, or a title that was given to Henry by the Pope himself, because of a treatise that he wrote against Luther, was actually penned by More himself. He was a thinker. He corresponded with Erasmus of Rotterdam and other notable philosophers of the day. My point is that More was not a fanatic. He was a realist. When confronted with the fact that the Holy Roman Catholic Church was perhaps even more corrupt than Henry VIII, More did not deny the corruption of the church at that time, but simply argued that this was the church established by Christ, and the human element of corruption did not eradicate the divine presence of the sacraments and the teachings of Jesus Christ. Like the words of the prophet Zechariah, More believed that in the church's sacraments there flowed a fountain to purify us from sin. But More was no religious zealot. More was willing to lose his life for Christ's sake, not because of religious fanaticism, ignorance, or insanity. More was martyred on principle. Taking an oath to King Henry VIII as head of the Church of England was an oath in good conscience that he could not take. Everyone told him, especially his beloved daughter Meg, she begged him, "Take the oath, but don't mean it in your heart." In other words, compromise your principles. But More wouldn't and couldn't do such a thing. There is a cost to discipleship in Jesus Christ. We are all almost guaranteed a cross to bear. In the case of Thomas More, perhaps that cross was principle. He was willing to die, something most of us fear beyond anything else imaginable, rather than forfeit his core beliefs. Do you believe in anything that strongly? He was unwilling to compromise. And we live in a world today where many seem unwilling to compromise. One only look at the stagnation in Congress or the social and cultural divide at the basis of many of the social issues of our day: abortion, gun laws, same-sex marriage, and see that neither side is willing to compromise, but unlike more, the basis of their argument is less about principle, and I would especially say principle based on Jesus Christ, and more about elections and scoring political points. The reality is that if belief in Jesus Christ means anything, it means that there are some principles worth dying for. There is such a thing as integrity. Or is integrity nothing more now than a word in a dictionary? In the words of St. Thomas More to his daughter, when a man takes an oath, Meg, he's holding his own self in his own hands like water. And if he opens his fingers, then he needn't hope to find himself again. Today, in honoring the patron of our parish, St. Thomas More, I believe it should give us a moment to stop and ponder about our own principles. What are you willing to die for? What compromises have you made? How have you denied yourself in following Jesus Christ? And if the person we claim to follow to be the Lord of our life, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, suffered, can we truly expect to get a free pass? Perhaps it all comes down to death, something most of us seek to avoid. But I do believe it is because of our fear of dying that we often forfeit our principles and compromise. Let me close with a final letter that Moore wrote to his daughter. Although I know well, Margaret, that because of my past wickedness I deserve to be abandoned by God, I cannot but trust in his merciful goodness. His grace has strengthened me until now and made me content to lose goods, land, and life as well, rather than to swear against my conscience. Just may do it aside. In those days, what the king gave, the king could take away. And since the King of England had given him all of these titles, all of this land, all of this property, it was more within Henry's right to take them all away. But he did not. God's grace has given the king a gracious frame of mind towards me, so that as yet he has taken from me nothing but my liberty. And in doing this, his majesty has done me such great good with respect to spiritual profit, that I trust that among all the great benefits that he has heaped so abundantly upon me, I count my imprisonment the very greatest. I cannot, therefore, mistrust the grace of God. By the merits of his bitter passion joined to mine, and far surpassing in merit for me all that I can suffer myself, his bounteous goodness shall release me from the pains of purgatory, and shall increase my reward in heaven besides. I will not mistrust him, Meg, though I shall fear myself weakening and on the verge of being overcome with fear. I shall remember how St. Peter, at a blast of wind, began to sink because of his lack of faith, and I shall do as he did, call upon Christ and pray to him for help. And then, I trust, he shall place his holy hand on me, and in the stormy seas holding me up from drowning. And finally, Margaret, I know this well, that without my fault, he will not let me be lost. I shall, therefore, with good hope, commit myself wholly to him. And if he permits me to perish for my faults, then I shall serve as praise for his justice. But in good faith, Meg, I trust that his tender pity shall keep my poor soul safe and make me commend his mercy. And therefore, my own good daughter, do not let your mind be troubled over anything that shall happen to me in this world. Nothing can come but what God wills, and I am very sure that whatever that be, however bad it may seem, it shall indeed be the best.